So, welcome to a little tutorial which I've named the Interdisciplinary Model. It's made by my students and I. And this is to get you through the first year exam of Service Economist. It has all the 4 P's in it, but we've made it into the Service Management Model made by Richard Norman ages ago. So it's called the SMILK model. Now the Service Management Model, or the SMILK model, is a service management model to analyze any company in the services business. So this is to do with the service and experience business. And the model has 5 elements. And the middle one is the most important one because it interrelates with all the other ones. So basically, the quick explanation is, I'm going to do that in a minute, and then I'm going to go into depth with all the theories. Yeah. So it's called, this is an internal model, and the criticism of this is there's no economics in it. But any service company has a flow or service, a service offer, which they offer. They have some customers, segmentation here, and also they have some kind of a promotion or image of the company and how to deliver it with usually the front staff. And in any company, this is the heart of any company and the most important one of the service management model, the corporate culture. And then we got some theories in this. So this is the crash course in it. Now, this is internal. Afterwards, I'm going to show you another slide, and another slide has to do with the organization of a company, the people in it, management, middle, and top. Top, middle, and the front staff. So first here, we have a flow or service. Now, we're mixing the 8 P's, which is the marketing mix. There's 8 P's, product, price, place, promotion, and these were made until about 92, because in 92, Pine and Gilmore invented something called the experience economy, hence the flower service, because before that we only sold products, tangible products that were intangible, could not be stored, could not be resold, and could not be tried before you had them. So we had extra 3 P's, the physical evidence, the people, the process, and the last one is called the promise, more like the motto of the company. So the first one is, we don't really sell products, but this is a flower or service. So the ones that know what a flower service is, you have the core, which for any kind of airline would be passenger transportation, accommodation for hotels, restaurants would be eating out, some kind of a meal. That would be the core service. And then you have the enhancing and facilitating. Now the facilitating are the boring ones, like we call them. And the boring elements are like information, ordering, website, contact information, what you would usually find on a website or a company. That's the facilitating. But where companies compete is with the enhancing elements. And before Wi-Fi came, then Wi-Fi was an enhancing part. And now it could be free delivery or something that the other customers, companies do not offer. Could be customer service, but it's something extra. USP, unique selling proposition. And any company has a price on the product. So we have the flower service, which is not the product, it's obsolete, and then you have the price on it. And for price, you could use yield management. The definition of yield management is to sell the right product at the right time to the right person at the right place, 4 different elements. That was yield or revenue management. Then this is what we sell to these people. And this is segmentation. Now this says here the STP model. It's like a funnel. So you have the segmentation process, business to business, business to consumer. And then you target, you find a target group, could be families with children, and then you position yourself. Positioning encompasses all the 8 P's. So the 8 P's are, like I said, product, price, place, promotion. They were from the 80s. And then we had experience economy, 92, Pine and Gilmore. And then you invented people, physical evidence, process, and the promise. So we're here. And people are also, people is one of the 8 P's. And one of the, in the people elements, or the people mix, you have customers have to be the same. You have to, can probably not have business guests in the same restaurant as families with kids, because they're so different. So you have to do the segmentation correctly. So these 2 target groups can sit side by side. So you have people for the guests, the staff members, and the staff members are usually the front staff, but you also have the management. So you have customer to customer here as well, and front staff to customer in people. Business to business and business to consumer. Business to consumer is usually the 4 variables we have: geographic, demographic, psychographic. Psychographic is the same as lifestyle. And then you have behavioral. And then you have business to business. Business to business is usually the abbreviation called MICE. Meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. So now you got a service offer, you sell them to these people. Yeah. So how do these people find out about your service offer? It's through the image or the promotion mix. Promotion mix is one of the 8 P's in the marketing mix. It has personal sales, advertising, and so on. You can find this in the Lovelock book. And physical evidence is also one of the 8 P's. So in '92 we found out that it wasn't just enough to sell a physical product, we had to sell something like a service offer. So how to make the intangible tangible using a video like this one. This is showing my lectures physically, because you didn't know what you were getting into before you started my lectures. Or if you go to a destination, maybe you watch a video, maybe the website has video or pictures of it. Yes? And so we got this, and then you got maybe the brochure. The brochure's been obsolete more or less for ages, but it probably will not cease to exist, because guests like to see a brochure. Promise, it's like, it could be the motto or the slogan of a company, like we want to be the best or the most punctual, safe airline in the world. That could be the promise. Or we promise you, if it were some fast food place, we promise you service within 2 minutes, or money back. Now the 4 realms of experience were also done at the same time in '92 by Pine and Gilmore. And it has the different ways a customer can immerse, absorb, and so on into the service offer. So this is supposed to be active, because you're students maybe. So you're supposed to be active and also listening to what I'm saying here, so you can use it for the exams. Maybe the opposite would be sitting in a cinema where you're just being entertained, not really using your brains all that much. And the branding is part of this as well. You have branding for a company, you also have sub-brands and so on. A brand can be many things. It could be the physical branding, the logo, or it could be also the hearsay, people, word of mouth, what the branding is of the company. And the promotion mix is still here, yeah. Then you got the delivery system. Now we have a lot of theories in it, but it basically is the 3-stage model. It's before the timeline, before you get the service offer, we hear about it. You want a holiday, I want a holiday, then you book it. Then when you're on the holiday, it's the during or the service encounter, it's long time-wise. And then that's where you usually use a flowchart analysis, which is also part of this, yeah? And then the after one, the post, the pre-purchase, the during, and then the after. And afterwards, it's usually when a customer decides, was I happy or not? And then you do evaluation. And then that's when you can use methodology. Questionnaire, which is primary data collection, and it's also qualitative, open-ended questions, and quantitative if it's close-ended questions. So when you go into this, the 3-stage model, it is consumer behavior, that's the heading. We have many moments of truth. Moment of truth was done when this model, this is from 1982, this model, but we've redone this model to make it a lot better. And moments of truth is basically when your front staff meets the guest for the first time. And then you have something called critical incidents. Critical incidents is when something good or bad happens, and then you want to fix it. It could be the waiting was too long, or it could be that you were not approached by a salesperson fast enough. You could use the rater model here as well. And the flowchart analysis is a more detailed way to do the 3-stage model. It's in details. When you meet this, if it's a restaurant, for instance, then you would first park your car. If it's a 5-star restaurant, then there would be somebody parking your car for you. You would enter the restaurant, and then Piccolo would take your clothes, and then you would go to the bar, have a drink, and all these incidents could be critical. If something bad happens, something that is not to the satisfaction of the guests, then he or she would have a negative quality gap, because you have your expectations before and then during it, but afterwards you have a perception. Perceptions happens in our brains, the cognitive thoughts of whether or not we were happy with it or not. And then you have the process here. The process is also part of the 8 Ps. It is one of the latter ones after 92, after the Pine and Gilmore invention of service economy was invented. And then that is more or less the process. It's also before, during, and after, but it's more detailed to use for exams, the 3-stage model or a flow chart, so you can plot in what really happens. So if it is a weighting, you find out, okay, it's in the flow chart analysis, and the weighting is too long, it's a critical incident, we can fix it. Yeah, but if we fix the weighting, that it's quicker to serve guests, then you might need to hire more staff, and that costs money in the other end. So you gotta, level it out. Is it profitable or not? Or is it an important thing to fix or not? We have the ratio model here. It is how, if you do mystery shopping, then you can see how responsive is the service employee, the front staff. So you evaluate them using the circle model if you want, but that's in part of the GAP model. GAP model is one of my favorite models because it's quality management, and it has 6 gaps in it. And it's basically gap 1, making an analysis of the guests' expectations through a survey, and then you get all these answers back, like in methodology, and after that, you write it down in a report, gap 2. So if your answers to start with were wrong, then you get the wrong answers. That goes into the gap 2, the translation, the report. Gap 4 is you make a manual. For the ones that worked in the hotel business, for instance, you have maybe a manual what to do in certain situations. If the guest complains. That's like the manual, that's gap number 3. Gap number 4 is the one that we really focus on, and is moments of truth. That is when the guests and the customers meet for the first time. That's gap 4. And the other one is called external. It's like if you do the brochure in the wrong way, if you have the wrong website, if you promise something, promise here, if you promise something in the brochure that you do not deliver at the delivery system when the guest and the staff meets for the first time, then you have a negative quality gap. And the 6th one is expectations versus perception. Was I happy or not? That is basically this model. And again, the criticism is there's no economics in it. So this is internal. I'm just going to go to the computer and change the slides. So back to this. This is external, yeah? Now, external parts theories are what we cannot control in a company. We can control everything in the SMILK service model, the service management model. This we cannot. Porter's 5 forces, yeah? Porter's 5 forces is competition model. It has substitutes, it has threat of new entries, it has bargaining power, strong or weak for suppliers and for the guests. So you can have a look at that model. That's external. You cannot control the competition. You have the PESTLE. Usually there's a trinity. First you do a PESTLE, external, political, economic, sociocultural, technological, environmental, and legal, PESTLE. You take the whole country and you take some secondary data usually, and you sum it up and you have a sub-conclusion of the PESTLE. Then usually afterwards you would do a SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis is a situational analysis. It's like a snapshot of a situation of a company at that time. It will change tomorrow. And that snapshot is S and W, strengths, weaknesses, internal, we can control this. External opportunities and threats we cannot control, and they come from the PESTLE usually. So the PESTLE leads to the SWOT. When you have the SWOT, then usually you take the TOWS. The TOWS is SWOT backwards, TOWS, as opposed to SWOT. The TOWS is strategic recommendations for the future of a company. And it has maybe 3 or 5 different recommendations, strategic plans for the future. Maybe higher turnover in the summertime, or evening out, leveling out the seasonality, or finding new target groups, rebrand the company. Then you got the stakeholder analysis. Stakeholders is somebody that has a stake in your company. It could either be by money, banks and so on, investors, but it can also be the staff members. They don't have, well, they do have a monetary interest in it, but it's more like soft and hard values of the stakes in the company. You can have neighbors as well, but you have when you Google stakeholder analysis, make sure you Google it. to find if it's for destination, you Google stakeholder analysis for destination management. Or if it's for an ice cream company, you do a stakeholder analysis for ice cream company, because the stakeholders are completely different from a public company to a private company to a physical producing. If you selling computers, for instance, stakeholders will be different than on a destination or travel agent. And then, yeah, you just find the stakeholder you want. There's one slide left, and it's this one. This is, if you imagine a pyramid like this, like that. So you got top management, only one, or maybe a few. That is strategic. It's a strategic plan for the future. Only the management can do this. Then you have tactical, that's up to 1 year. It is the middle managers, the ones that are usually fired in a company, because they are usually too many and they have maybe overlapping tasks. And then you have the operational, which is day-to-day, and that is what I am, for instance, front staff. You have your weekly, your monthly plan for what to do. And this is also where the the ground force is, yeah? So this is like this, the triangle, yeah? ROI is not a name for a man, it's return on investment. And for most exams, you need some economics. Return on investment is if you invest X amount, how many days, weeks will it take for you to get that profit back? When you hit zero, then of course that means that you're starting to profit. And you can also use yield management, but I explained that was to sell at the right time to the right person at the right price. It's also called yield management. These are more or less the same. Yield and yield management is usually used for airlines because they use the seats. They lose the seats when an airplane takes off. You cannot resell them. And for restaurants. So restaurants and transportation companies need to plan so they have the seats full at all time. Yeah. That was it. Thank you.